Hello, this is Alan Wheeler on my channel that lately has been dealing with tarot, reading, and spirituality. And uh, I've got to work out the title because it threatens to be really long. But I've been looking into conversions, and I initially was just thinking about my own experiences, and then in doing just a little research, I didn't have to dig too deep to see lots of YouTube videos about conversions from New Age to Christian, and I did have to dig a little deeper to find the reverse, although there's lots of people with the experience going the other way. And so the title of this video will have to be something like Smith Waite Centennial Tarot considers New Age Christian conversion, or conversion to and from Christianity, or something like that. Before I get into all that big can of worms, it's been my custom lately to introduce something from my altar. And in the last video I made, I think I discussed attending the... Whoa, I dropped it. Excuse me. I think I talked about attending the Unity Church. It may have been in passing, but in part this is what set me off on this video, because during a meditation time, some of the practitioners drew cards from a Doreen Virtue deck. I talked about it. Someone posted a comment that, oh, did you know she doesn't do tarot anymore? And I hadn't heard. So that kind of sparked some of my digging around online. Anyway, while I was at a service at that Unity Spiritual Center, they gave all the new visitors a little token. It looks like a piece of wood with a little affirmation on it. And I put this up on my altar. This one says, "I am a winner." And to be honest, when they handed this to me, I recoiled a bit, a sure sign of needing some shadow work, I suppose, but I don't like that attitude. Having to be the winner, overachieving, and that kind of thing. So this may be an example of what can be a positive characteristic, having sunk into the shadow in my own life. So I went ahead and put it up on the altar. There's definitely positive qualities in trying our best and succeeding. So I'll put that up there for a while and see if it sinks in any better for me. So that's something here on my altar. I have incense burning and a candle going. And the hope is just as I record these, that anyone watching is coming into a sacred space, and a respectful, honoring, and encouraging space, I hope. And this topic certainly needs that, I think. So, conversion or changing paths, maybe that's a better title for the video. As I was looking around in some different sources, I came across the statistic that 50% of people change their faith in their lifetime. And that sounds realistic to me. I think divorce is about 50% in marriages. And so it has the ring of truth to me there. I also read that big changes in belief structures and values require a lot of time, actually, to from a psychological standpoint to rewire, kind of to rewrite the brain's pathways. And I think cults and the military know this very well, in that they have lengthy boot camps and process of training or indoctrination, as the case may be. And I think we know from experience that kind of transformation um, can take some time, can take some work. So that's just some general knowledge, I think. Now, in looking at some of the YouTube videos I had not seen before, um, when I did a search, I was amazed at the number. I certainly didn't take the time to watch all of these, or maybe none of the ones from the Christian perspective. But there were many, many YouTube videos popping up about people who they've been saved from the New Age. They had converted to Christ, and coming from that background, I pretty well know um, what that what those testimonies are going to be like, and sincere or not. I mean, I'm sure they're sincere, but whether they're harshly spoken or in a more loving way, regardless, I have a pretty good idea the mindset of those. Um, and to be fair, part of any initiation, whether it's into a fraternity or a new job, um, part of that narrative can be a bit exclusive in any case. Um, so that's something to consider, but just how harsh that needs to be. Now, as I said earlier, it takes a little bit more digging or just watching a little more deeply to hear the other side of the story. And many, many Christians um, turn to a witch path, a pagan path, or a New Age path, or some other kind of alternative path. And the reason I think that it takes a little more watching and listening and digging is that most of people on these paths do not like proselytizing, do not want to be pushy, do not want to think that others need to do things the way they do. And so there's not going to be as many titled videos with the title Conversion from Christianity and this kind of easy to find testimonial. But I came across many, many stories of people who even had abusive um, backgrounds with religion, and some that did not, that had very positive, but it did not speak to them, and so they searched more widely. The main soapbox, I guess there's a slight irony, is that there is a soapbox for some of the people on alternative paths, but the soapbox is acceptance of all, being very inclusive. And so that is the truth that will get preached a little bit. In all fairness, I think it may be the better truth to be preaching, but nonetheless, that irony is there. But many of these people on the alternative path said they felt like they were coming home and finding themselves on these paths. And so it was a different experience, but a kind of a conversion experience. Now I question whether to bring another can of worms up, But I did see the some of the responses from 2017, 2018, back when Doreen Virtue um, changed her mindset about tarot, and some of her uh, even certificates and things she'd been given, and maybe her attitudes towards mediumship and things had changed. Um, I just think probably public conversions are difficult and complicated um, by additional offense and disappointment and other things, just that public spotlight. So maybe I won't get into that, but other than to acknowledge that she certainly um, was borderline to begin with, and so she was kind of an angel person. Someone called her a Christian with a New Age twist, who just left off the New Age twist after a time. So she may be in a different, both by her public spotlight and her smaller shift, may be different than some of the conversions that we see. Now, in my experience, back when I was 30 years old, the Christian path really leapt up and took me aboard, and it was quite a healing experience for me. So I was completely irreligious. I pretty much was an atheist at the time, and so it led to me being able to change my lifestyle, give up drinking, um, get through some desperation, some desperate times. So I know that conversions, put in whichever way, can be very healing, very helpful. Um, However, when I gave up drinking, I didn't turn around and say that everyone else needed to give up drinking. It was just destroying me. So that's a little bit different approach than demonizing um, drinkers or alcohol, or even alcoholics who choose not to give it up. But that was the good effect it had in my life. Now, that was at age 30 when I had that experience. And at about age 55, a few years ago, I'm 58 now, I began expanding the other way and experimenting with meditation, tarot cards, and other spiritual pathways. And for me, I wanted to honor what came before, and it's the topic of a lot of my videos and my Blended Path website, that I just wanted to honor what came before, if possible. And I note that both Jesus and Buddha, who revolutionized their respective religions, um, and even spoke quite harshly against some of the religious traditions of their times, they still honored their Jewish and their Hindu past, respectively. And so, to me, that's real growth. Able to, I think the phrase is letting go of what no longer serves, but um, I think they tried to keep what did serve, and so that was has been a bit of my model at this time. Just for me, it seems to me that if you just switch camps, or for me, if I just switch camps, and now the other camp are the ones on the out, that wouldn't be growth for me. That would just be change, just transplanting into a different soil, so to speak. Um, Kind of like I've known some people that just church hop, and they go from church to church, but they take their same problems with them. To me, that's a lot different than someone who really feels the need of the divine masculine as a deity in their life and resonates with the Christian faith and changes um, without kind of repudiating all that came before, all the good things that came before. To me, that's a little bit different. Now, I'm going to, at the risk of getting lengthy, I'll just bring up one um, item that may require another video, but that is the three different approaches. One would be exclusivism, and that would be the fundamentalist, almost cultish idea that everyone else that's not on the path is lost and wrong, completely without value, and maybe going to hell or whatever. Um, then and I can't abide that anymore personally. I don't. It's um, to me that's the real devil right there. um, the other approach would be universalism, and to me that's a little insipid, which means tasteless, like a big everything mixed together um, in a brown sludge, and everybody's right. There's no demarcation, and it's not only insipid but a little illogical that everyone is absolutely right in every way. But the approach I lean towards now is just inclusivism, that we each may have different paths, and we may even find tribes of like-minded people, but these boundaries have gates and doors and are welcoming in some senses, and so there's inclusivism. And that's, to me, both retains the distinctiveness of different paths and different faiths, but also has the quality of acceptance and understanding that we need. That if we don't learn to have that kind of love, we will destroy ourselves um, in this country, on this planet. So, with those thoughts in mind, I drew uh, two, two I didn't quite mean to get so serious. I drew 2 rune stones and 3 cards from the Smith-Waite Centennial Tarot. And as I was drawing the rune stone, an additional one fell out, and the one that fell out was Sowolo. And this is the rune that stands for sun. And in this case, it reminded me that converting to a new path or expanding spiritually to experience other faiths can be very healing. We can feel enlightenment, and this kind of breaking through of the sunlight can be very powerful. At the same time, the actual rune that I drew was Pertho, and this reminded me both of the mystery of initiation that people experience on some paths, but also that there's a mystery to all of this conversation, and it may not fit into the neat taxonomies that I like to put things in. And so to remember the mystery involved in this and to honor the experiences that others have. I drew the 3 cards from the Smith-Waite Centennial, and the first one was the Magician. And uh, this card for me was very appropriate in reminding me that a conversion um, can really empower someone. They're just like this magician here um, has these, I guess, altar tools out on his table for his ceremonial magic. But regardless, we're equipped with tools we may not have had before in whatever faith we were um, previously engaged in. And the just like all of the aces represented here, the sword, the cup, the pentacle, and the wand here. Um, so we feel equipped with it, maybe new rituals and new teachings and new ideas, new practices. Also, we see the familiar stance as above, so below. And so there's a feeling of being in touch with something transcendent as within, so without. And so, in a way that's that potency um, and taking, almost like drinking a potion, a powerful potion that has this new effect that we had not experienced before. And so, I don't think the magician is necessarily a new initiate, um, but maybe it can be applied to that kind of energy as well. Now, the second card I drew was the Five of Swords, and this remind actually reminded me more of the negative side. And this is the combat, that idea of win-lose uh, scenario, and kind of ridiculing what came before rather than honoring what came before. And as I think I said, boundaries are needed. We have to um, use critical thinking. We have to have identity, but it doesn't need to be so harsh, not so sharp. There can be doors, open doors um, that that open both ways, and so um, in the light, it reminds us that there is this sharpness. Um, it can feel like we're winning or losing a battle, but on the dark side of this card, um, I think we can lose the harshness and the ridicule and the condemning of what came before. The last card, very appropriately for me, was the Judgment card, and this just speaks of that freedom that we can feel as we expand and change, the release, the rising up, that feeling of coming home, um, that some witches mentioned in finding their path. Um, it's like the shedding of skin, shedding the old skin of the serpent. And maybe this can happen many, many times in our experience as we grow and uh, feel that relief, that release, and that new freedom. And we feel washed away of those things that no longer serve. So I'll stop there. Those cards were very fortuitous um, to have drawn, and uh, helped me in my reflection on conversion. So as always, thank you for watching. I hope you find a connection in your real life, in online community, and on your spiritual path, whatever that might be. Thank you so much for watching.